What's up? Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Roll Pod. It is Sunday afternoon at the time of this recording. Alabama, or the full college football playoff bracket just came out an hour and a half ago. Alabama coming in at number 9, set to travel to number 8, Oklahoma, for a rematch with the Sooners. Obviously, the first game in Tuscaloosa, but Alabama not moving a spot after what was a very disappointing performance, a kind of just not very good overall against Georgia in that SECCG championship in Atlanta. Mike, Alex, and I were there. We will get into that in a little bit, but we're going to start with the college football playoff ranking. Alex, I want to start with you, kind of put you on the spot here. Do you still feel the same way in the sense of do away with conference championship games?
Yeah, still, there's no risk.
Yep.
I mean, it's not worth the risk. And if it doesn't matter, why are you doing it? So either get rid of it completely or turn it into something that can help one of your bubble teams, not a team that you took great pains to say for the last week is your number 1 seed in the best conference in college football. Alabama not moving doesn't, to me, justify changing anything. It just doesn't feel. I mean, it's 2025. We're going to expand the playoff to 16 teams. Notre Dame has its way. It'll be tomorrow, but I don't see the point anymore. Great game, great buffet, but no.
Notre Dame might be trying to get
chicken nuggets because I fall from that to chicken nuggets.
I think Notre Dame might be trying to get in a conference by this time tomorrow, maybe, but that's a discussion for another time. Mike, what do you think? Still kind of the same?
I mean, I did a roundup of all the predictions, and unless I was missing one, I don't think I saw any that had Alabama staying at 9.
Right.
There's a good number of predictions that had Alabama in the field, but I think pretty much everyone I saw had them at 10 playing at Texas A&M. So for a second week in a row, it was completely out of the blue as far as what the committee did. And I was a little bit surprised myself to see Alabama at 9. I was kind of expecting them to be either 10 or 11. That was kind of the debate that I was expecting. But I don't know. It disagrees with the AP and coaches poll, but it was the exact opposite last year. Alabama was in as number 10 or 11, whatever the last spot in was in the polls last year, both of them. And then they were left out by the committee. So this was kind of the opposite. They were not in with both polls. And even the computer metrics, I haven't seen the updated BCS yet, but I would imagine they were probably out based on the combination of polls and the computer rankings. And then the committee had them in. And I honestly haven't even listened to Hunter Yurachek because I've been so busy, but I think he said something.
Good for your health not to.
Right. Like I said, I mean, I feel a little bit bad because he was kind of thrown into that role because of Mac Rhodes' situation. I don't think Hunter Yurachek signed up for the committee this year thinking he was going to be the chairman. But here he is having to explain a very controversial decision. But look, I think you could have done it either way. How many combinations of that there are between 9, 10, and 11 and those 3 teams, I think you can make an argument for any one of them. So this was a little bit surprising of those possible results to have Alabama at 9. And just at the end of the day, it's not going to matter unless you win this game. Like getting into the playoff is one thing. I don't know. Would you rather play A&M or Oklahoma? I don't know. Like Oklahoma's had your number pretty damn good the last 2 years on defense.
And further than that too, even during the same days, there's, kind of a Sooner problem, I guess, but
right. And I think it's tougher to play at Kyle Field, especially for a playoff game because of the sheer volume of people there. There's 100-something thousand. Oklahoma's, a much smaller stadium, but the way it's built, like they're very, very close to your bench. That was something that they talked about before last year's game. Was like the crowd is right behind you. So I don't know if there's a huge difference in the environment in that sense. Oklahoma's defense scared me.
I'm shocked Alabama's favored.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising.
I don't understand that.
I think that line will move. I don't see it staying there.
I can see it being a push. And we can, I guess, get more into the game, but it from like a matchup standpoint, yes, I think you like Alabama's defense being able to slow down Oklahoma's offense because Oklahoma's offense has not looked all that good. Granted, they had a couple big plays against LSU, that won them that game. And John Mateer was still able to do a few things against Alabama. Like, he wasn't terrible. He didn't turn the ball over, most importantly, just like Gunnar Stockton didn't turn the ball over. So I think you really are hunting for a turnover in this game for Alabama. But I don't know if we want to dive more into the game, but just things off the top of my head. Like, I think
go ahead. Let's do
Kalen DeBoer is kind of selling, and part of this was his playoff pitch after the game, like talking about the injuries and saying we're going to be a different team in 2 weeks. And obviously part of that is trying to convince the committee that you should be in the playoffs. But from just a pure honest standpoint, like, that probably will help to some degree for Alabama. At the same time, that game's going to sneak up on you. Like, it's already Sunday afternoon.
It's 12 days away.
Right. Alabama's leaving to go to a road game. They're flying out next Thursday. So that's, I'm not good at math, but a week and a half, basically.
Yeah.
And they're going to have some days off this week, is what he's talked about already, for finals. And he also mentioned in his radio interview post-game that a lot of players are graduating Saturday. So they're not going to have anything Saturday for the team. So, you're going to have a limited practice window still. And obviously you're still trying to manage health of some players and get some players back. So yes, the extra time will help, but it's also probably negated a little bit by Oklahoma not having to play this past week. And by the way, Oklahoma was missing its best player when they played you in our Mason Thomas.
That's a good point. Yep.
And they'll get him back by all indications. I don't think he played against LSU, but I think at this point it seems like he'll be back. So, they're getting their good player back. You're getting Jam Miller back. You're getting maybe Josh Cuevas back, it seems like. You're getting who else? We'll see. He was kind of listing off a bunch of names. We'll have to see where LT Overton's at and Xavier Brown's at, et cetera. But how much of that will matter on the field? I don't know. I think what's going to matter is how does Ty Simpson play against Brent Venables' defense on the road? That's going to be the most important thing. Like, great if you have Jim Miller. I know Kalen mentioned you've lost 2 or 3 games without him, but I don't think this is a Jim Miller game. I think this is a Ty Simpson game where he needs to play well for you to win.
This is not a Jam Miller team. This is a Ty Simpson team. And we said it, I wrote it after the loss to Oklahoma. I've written it several times. They will go as far as he takes them, and he's not right now. Like, we can talk about, it's almost like Saturday's game didn't happen for the selection committee, which is still sort of wild. Like, in principle, I understand ignoring it, but we saw it, and what we saw was a very bad Ty Simpson, a guy who just doesn't look right physically, doesn't seem to trust his arm, feels the pressure, and there's too much pressure, but he feels it too, and it's all the way around wrong. So does the extra time help a little bit? It cuts both ways, because Brent Venables is a beast when it comes to game planning, and he's going to have the extra time, and he's going to have seen what Alabama's adjustments were to him, and he can know how to counter them. So as much as this is a game about the players and it will be decided on the field, I think the coaching matchup more than anything is going to be fascinating to see what both sides of this equation look like, because this offense just looks lost right now for Alabama. And I know our board, a lot of people, they want to fire Ryan Grubb. It's just insane. You're not going to fire Ryan Grubb. I still believe he's a good offensive coordinator. I still believe he's a really good offensive coordinator, as a matter of fact. What can he do to sort of cobble together a game plan to really attack this Sooner defense and get Ty Simpson going, I think, is the key to all of this, because the number 9 ranking doesn't matter if you don't do something with it. Pissing off all of college football by, once again, Alabama getting in when people want them out. It doesn't matter if you don't play well. And if you don't play well, people are going to crush you. They're going to crucify you. So in that sense, this team's identity, the forget everybody, and by forget, I mean another word, you lean into that. And I think that's going to be, in some ways going on the road is going to play into that. But again, just curious about Ty first and foremost, but the coaching matchup, how healthy some of these guys are, and what Alabama does with such a public failing in a game, whether it should have taken place or not. Everyone saw it. How are they going to handle all that and bounce back from it?
Right. Yeah. It's just you're stacking a lot of bad games for the offense on top of each other. And it felt like at some point, all right, you had a bad game in South Carolina, maybe you have a good game against LSU. Didn't happen. You had a good game. You didn't have a good game against LSU. Maybe you'll do it against Oklahoma. Didn't happen. Even Eastern Illinois wasn't particularly great. So, and then you go in Auburn, you're like, oh, maybe this is the game. Nope, didn't happen. You go to Georgia. Well, Georgia can't rush the passer. Maybe this is the game. Nope. And just you keep stacking those on top of each other. So that creates a higher level of doubt going into another team that you've seen before. And as Kalen said after the game about Georgia, they know our strengths. And again, I think he was trying to use that to explain what happened. And
so what? So does Oklahoma.
Right. You should know their strengths too, to explain, what can happen in this one. So just like it would scare me, and it did scare me about Brent Venables having a bye week to prepare for you when he came to Tuscaloosa. In this case, he has 2 bye weeks to prepare for you to go to. Now, granted, I don't know how much he was preparing for Alabama this past week. Again, it was kind of out of the blue, but essentially still 2 bye weeks to look at you. And it's going to be a big game for Kalen. And honestly, if they had missed the playoffs, you can kind of play the injustice card a little bit. Like, we got screwed again. Even if you go and lose a bowl game to Michigan or whatever, players didn't care. Like what Nick Saban said last year, from a mental standpoint, players just check out. So you kind of write off if that was the path that things happen. Well, you made the playoffs. You did that. But now if you lose to Oklahoma again, that's, I don't want to say it's worse, but it's
it's a different spin on it at the very least.
Yeah, there's not that card to play where you got screwed. You didn't get screwed. In fact, you're the 9 seed when nobody thought you were going to be the 9 seed. And in some ways maybe caught a break by playing Oklahoma instead of A&M from a betting line standpoint. Right now, that seems to be the case. So there's no screwing going on. It's just you got to win the game. And to do that, I think the offense needs to play a hell of a lot better. Yeah.
Real quick, and this is something that I don't really understand here. Maybe you guys can. How is Georgia not number 2?
When I first saw that come out, as soon as I saw Ohio State go to 2, I said Alabama's going to be in the field because I thought that they were trying to avoid a quarterfinal rematch. If Georgia had been 2 and Alabama was 10, in my mind, then that would have meant Alabama and Georgia would have played again in the quarterfinals. I'm like, they're just setting it up to not have Alabama and Georgia play again. But that wasn't really the outcome. So I don't know. I think.
You know what? I was going to say.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in. I think what it tells us is this committee doesn't care about when the games happened. I think Notre Dame being left out is a clear indicator of that because their losses were early in the season. Yeah. I think Georgia, I think it's a reflection of that. I think Alabama is certainly a reflection of that because they're not playing their best football. I think that's ultimately what it is they're remembering when Georgia didn't look good as opposed to what we saw the back half of the season where they looked really damn good. I would have put them 2, but I just watched Georgia demolish Alabama.
Yeah, 100%. You guys mentioned the injuries. Obviously, Jam and Cuevas are the big ones that have been lingering for a while, but I just want to read off the list that Kalen DeBoer, had in the postgame. He mentioned LT Overton, Jam Miller, Josh Cuevas, Parker Brailsford, Jeremy Bernard, Daniel Hill, Cam Dewberry, Dijon Lee, Xavier Brown, Gino Vandermark, Kevin Riley, Kelby Collins. So a lot of those guys on the availability report beforehand. Some guys like a Jeremy, Daniel Hill, Dijon Lee are all of a sudden dealing with things. I don't know. He didn't get into specifics, but I don't know if that's just.
And he didn't even mention Deshaun Jones when he was talking about players who were playing one-handed. Literally, Deshaun Jones playing with the club on his hand. So that would have been a good example, I guess. But he didn't play at all. Red Morgan played not a ton of snaps because they were in actually 3-4 for a decent amount of the game. I think Justin Hill and Yanze Pierre played 43 snaps each. So it was the most Wolf action we've seen all year. But yeah, I mean, again, how many of those guys are going to be full strength? We'll see. I'm sure a decent number of them. We'll have to see.
Justin Jefferson too hobbled off, but I think he can't. I can't remember if he came back in. I know he was still available, but he wasn't mentioned. It's just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll have to see where Xavier's at. We'll have to see where LT's at. Like, I don't know if you're going to go into this game fully healthy, fully rested. Like, again, the game's going to sneak up on you pretty quickly here. So it will help. It just, I don't know if it's going to be perfect.
And you want another reason not to play the SEC championship game. That's it.
Right.
Even if it doesn't hurt you in seeding, it hurts you in health.
Right. That's what Kirby was saying after the game. He's like, this is basically a 9th SEC game for us. And imagine next year, every team playing 9 games. And then in theory, assuming the SEC championship still exists, that 2 more teams play a 10th game. So that's a lot. I don't think the game needs to continue in its current form. I didn't go to the game yesterday. It was a good game. It was good atmosphere, all that. But
loud as hell, man. It was
right.
loud.
But it's like, I don't know if this game needed to happen. Like, I don't need to see this. I didn't need to see I didn't need to see Indiana and Ohio State.
Nobody needs to see Penn State.
Nobody needs to see. They're still top like 16 in Sagarin's rating. It's crazy. But it's like I would still rather have seen a Miami Notre Dame rematch or a Miami Vanderbilt or Texas Alabama, whatever it was. Like, play it in. And that's, again, it goes back. That's the Big Ten's whole thing. And people mock them for saying we're going to expand the playoffs. But that's really what the crux of their plan is make the conference title games part of the playoff. So they're not expanding the playoffs in the sense of adding a lot more games. They're kind of making conference championships part of the playoffs. So I don't hate that idea. And I think it should happen. And I think regardless of the result for Alabama today in the selection, I think the SEC championship game and other championship games need to be reconsidered. And at the end of the day, like, Notre Dame's a better team than James Madison and Tulane. I think everybody will agree about that. So,
and I think Vanderbilt is too.
In Texas, I'm sure there's a lot of teams. That's why they're ranked higher in theory. Right. And that's kind of the direction that Nick Saban went when he was talking about the playoff. And he wasn't necessarily picking a side on Alabama, Notre Dame, and Miami. He basically just said all 3 should be in. And why are we having Tulane and James Madison in? That was, as I predicted, that's kind of the card that he played. So I agree with him on that. But if you do that, if you get rid of the G5s, the G6 now, their automatic bid, you're blowing up college football because you're providing no path for those teams to get in unless they somehow can get into the top 20 in rankings. But if you put an emphasis on strength of schedule, then it's very difficult for them to get in the top 20 in rankings. So you're basically creating a split across college football, which may need to happen, but that would be a very seismic event.
All automatic qualifiers should go out the window. When Duke is playing Virginia for the ACC championship, what are you doing? I mean, this is not a Tulane. Like, Tulane, I think, should be in the playoff. I can debate about James Madison because their strength of schedule is in the triple digits. But, like, there shouldn't be automatic qualifiers in a college football where there are basically 3 conferences. So it's the Big Ten, the SEC, and it's sometimes the ACC. It's sometimes the Big 12. Why are we doing all of this with automatic qualifiers? Stepping away from conference champions getting buys was a good development because Ohio State would have a lot to say. But at the end of the day, it's a screwed up system. And, Alabama gets in, they benefit from it when I honestly wasn't sure that they would. But we were going to talk about the precedent of if Alabama didn't get in and what it would mean for conference championships. I think the flip side is still true. What does it mean now that they can say that none of the games matter for people who lose them?
Right. Why not just have the selections last week? And
exactly.
Right. No,
I think you are locked in the penultimate rankings.
Right. There's arguments that are valid both ways. And again, the whole thing's just kind of dumb being someone who kind of came from an NFL background and there's no committees deciding the NFL playoffs. Like, this whole idea of a committee is kind of stupid to me, but here we are.
Yeah. I think all things considered too, looking at the bracket, and again, obviously it doesn't matter, like you guys said, the 9 seed's great. Doesn't matter if you don't win this game, but I think all things considered, looking at it, it's a pretty good draw for Alabama. I don't know if I say that because you have Ohio State and Georgia on the other side. I know Indiana kind of.
You're disrespecting Indiana. Just you can say it. You're showing disrespect towards Indiana. That is what you're doing.
And I don't want Signetti to. Well, I do. I would love Signetti to watch Roll Pod, but I don't think he is.
Your helmet's
good. I just think it's like the all crimsons, or it's like the red/white crimson side of the bracket between Oklahoma, Alabama, and Indiana. But I just think it's a fairly good draw. Mike doesn't. I don't know if he agrees with that.
I mean, Indiana just beat Ohio State. At some point, I got to give them credit. Like, I know people aren't always believing in them, but they just beat Ohio State, and they've beaten a lot of teams. They went to Oregon. They beat Oregon. Like, they're the number 1 seed for a reason, I guess, and that's who you're playing. And it would be in the Rose Bowl. You'd have a ton of Indiana fans there because of the novelty of that whole idea. Like, I think it's a tough draw either way. Like, honestly, I would like my chances against Georgia for a third time more than I would Indiana. And Texas Tech's defensive line can eat your lunch money. That doesn't even make any sense.
Emphasis on money with Texas.
Right. So, I mean, yes, I guess in theory you avoid Ohio State, which is what we all thought is the most talented team in the country. But whatever Indiana just did to Ohio State and their wide receivers, like, they could probably do to you and your wide receivers. So, I don't know. Like, even Oregon, if they beat Texas Tech, maybe that's better. But I don't know. I have a hard time saying it's a better draw than the other side of the bracket, just because of Indiana having beaten Ohio State. I can't not give them credit for that.
Yeah, I think Indiana's really good, and the quarterback matchup would be a struggle for Alabama's defense, I think. But ultimately,
by far the best quarterback they would see there.
Yeah, it's a cliche, and Alabama fans keep saying it's not about anybody else; it's about Alabama. I think because of the margin for error that this team has, I think that's true. And that's maybe a little bit of a backhanded thing to say, but I don't like, we've watched Alabama struggle at South Carolina. Like, I don't think we can look at a bracket and say something's good or bad. I think there's any game Alabama can go into and struggle. And I'm not sure that there's not any game they can go to and feel good about whether they come out with a victory. So I think, Oklahoma, it's about what did you learn last time and how do you move forward with that and how do you improve? Because, again, it feels weird. We were in Atlanta like less than 24 hours ago, and that happened. And there's a lot that needs to improve coming out of that game. Like, I liked what I saw out of certain guys. I liked what Justin Hill did. I liked moments from Red Morgan. I liked Ryan Williams finally showing up, but there's probably a lot more you don't like. Like, I don't like Isaiah Horton not being a factor. I don't like Ty Simpson, the way he's trending. I don't like the offensive line. I don't like the offensive play calling. There's a lot there from Saturday outside of just purely we didn't have our guys and therefore we struggled. That just needs to be corrected.
Right. It's kind of a weird mixture of feelings between, I'm sure, the jubilation that Alabama made the playoffs, if that's even jubilation. I don't even sense jubilation, to be honest. Like, from a board, from Twitter, from I think people are happy. It's almost more relief. I don't know if jubilation is even the right word, but it's kind of mixed with the fact that you just took what might have been your worst loss since the 2018.
It was an ass whipping. Let's just
I was gonna say that
Georgia players were taking a belt to their bench and going belt to ass, like, and it wasn't wrong. And I mean, in terms of points, 20-point loss. You had 21-point loss to Oklahoma last year on the road, which, again, that's the team you're playing next. This is a 21-point loss in a neutral site. It just, honestly, this game felt like more of an ass kicking than last year's Oklahoma game, because last year's Oklahoma game felt it was very Jalen Milroe oriented. This game was the whole thing. And that, if you look at it that way, was this program's worst loss in terms of lopsidedness since the Clemson game in 2018. So that's the last time we saw this team on the field, like you said, less than 24 hours ago. And we're also talking about them being a playoff team. It's just a weird mix of kind of where are we right now?
The counter argument, because we are kind of just all over the place on this podcast, which is fine because today is all over the place.
Yep.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. Alabama did outgain Oklahoma. They did only lose by 2 points.
Yep.
That was a close game. I do think, like, I hate harping on Ty because it's not his fault that it's all built around him, but it is built around him, and he's been off since South Carolina. If you can just make a little adjustment there, I think you've got a real shot in this game. Serious things that need to get fixed, but I just, we talk about how we feel about Alabama right now, but it wasn't that long ago that they had a chance to beat Oklahoma. It wasn't that long ago that they were in, you're going to have to go to Norman. It is going to be different, but I think it's more about the Oklahoma game of a month ago as opposed to a year ago, because it just wasn't a complimentary football team last year. When Jalen folded, everything sort of folded. And I don't really get that sense from this defense. But we can talk about special teams just being a non-factor. But I don't know. It's just a different vibe of the team to me.
Yeah. Kind of going along with that.
To some degree, but not a lot. I mean,
Not
I felt
enough.
like that defense
They'd be a better team if it was completely different.
Was a little bit demoralized by the offense last night.
Yeah.
Like, I think you would be too. Like, just you keep having to go out there and
short fields
try to win the game. And yeah, I mean, like Kalen said, it was 4 short fields. Technically, one of them was still in Georgia territories at the 40-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 within Alabama territory for Georgia. But you allowed touchdowns every single time.
Right.
And like, I think the defense was okay, but what is stopping me from giving the defense more credit is that they didn't make a single stop in the red zone, which this defense has over the course of the year. So I guess
here's what's different to me. If you watch Georgia run the football, they ran the ball like they were playing in 2015. Like I was like, I haven't seen that physical of running the football in a long time.
Right.
It was startling watching in comparison to Alabama. But in terms of this game, Oklahoma doesn't do that either.
Right.
They're not a very good running football team, which is odd because I think they do have talent at that position. But that was the thing. Like when you watched that game early, that was the thing where I was like, oh shit, Alabama's not going to win this football game because they were getting beat up front. And it felt like Alabama would be able to make the occasional stop, but I don't think they were keeping out of anything because Georgia was falling forward, not just for 1 yard. They were falling forward for like 3 or 4 yards on every carry.
Yeah, I agree. Oklahoma's offense is among those in the playoff, potentially the worst.
And the way it moves the football through the air is the thing that Alabama actually does pretty well at.
Right. It's just still a question of where's LT, where's Zabian, where's Justin Jefferson. I thought Keon Sabb, from watching some of those plays in the red zone, was out of position on some of those. To me, I'm not an expert. Just how does it all show up?
Yeah.
And Oklahoma's going to be fired the F up to be playing this game as well. I'm sure going to be an inspired team. We saw the home teams win all 4 of those playoff games last year. So as bad as their offense looked late in the season for Oklahoma, like I wouldn't bury them either. Like I don't know. I think Alabama's offense could look better with some guys back, but I also think Oklahoma could be better with our Mason Thomas back on defense, and I think their offense could figure something out. We'll see.
Yeah, I just think
talking about the.
I don't think Alabama should be favored in this game, but at the same time, I think it's a pretty good matchup considering where Alabama is right now.
You talked about Georgia running the ball like with physicality, and like you said, 2015. I think that was by far their best defensive effort too. I think that Alabama's offense and not be able to convert third down might have catapulted that unit into feeling very, very good about themselves going to the playoff too.
Just totally, Alabama's offense is totally predictable. Like when you can't run the football and you can't push the ball downfield, they're just living with motion stuff or like jet sweep type stuff to Jeremy and Lazir Brooks and outlet passes to the receivers and tight ends. And if you give a good defense, that's all you're doing. They're going to have success with that. They've got to be more multiple. And that's easier said than done. But yeah, Georgia they were playing with their hair on fire because they didn't really have to worry about anything other than what was right in front of them. Yeah.
I thought that Ty's ball to Ryan was a good ball. It's in real time in the end zone. I thought it got tipped, but Ryan just dropped that ball. I'm only bringing that up.
Ryan or Jeremy? You're talking about the end of the game, near the end of the game?
Just talking about the one to Ryan left corner
in
of
the
the end
corner.
zone in front of us.
Yeah, it just kind of bounced off his chest. And I'm only just bringing that up because, Alex, you brought it up in the last Roll Pod. Like, he has several drops this year, and he looked good earlier in the game. I thought he made plays. I thought he was one of the few bright spots, but it was just like that kind of just bounced off his chest. Just odd.
so
-3 rushing yards.
Is that the one? Because there was one to Ryan to the left side of the end zone earlier, and then that was
the
kind
one
of considered a drop. And then there was one to the right that kind of went through traffic. It looked like it was going to get tipped. I think it was off Jeremy's chest in the end zone.
Yeah, that was the one I was talking about.
I'm talking about the Ryan one. I believe it was late in the end zone that we were on the side, but the left side of it. It kind of
left side.
I was like, that ball looked like it was tipped, but it just kind of just bounced off his
There
chest.
was a few drops in this game. I mean, some of those were borderline.
Horton had one.
Daniel Hill.
Yeah, Ryan had one. Horton had one. Caleb had one. Daniel Hill and Jeremy Bernard.
Yeah, Caleb had one to play before the 4th and 2 from the 12.
That's a tough one though, and maybe have a
he was
soft
turning
spot for the freshman.
It was a little bit of, if I remember right, it was a little bit of a medicine ball.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna try to say, but I got this soft spot for the freshman. I'll admit it. But I'm glad you brought up Justin Hill. Yep, go ahead.
And then there was just bad throws from Ty. Like some of those to Daniel Hill were not good throws. The one to 4th and 2 throw was way overthrown to Jeremy Bernard.
It could have been completed there, yeah.
Right.
Speaking
the
of
interception was behind Horton.
Right.
Jeremy,
but if it was also, we were talking about it. If it was a head, that was also getting picked off. It was just not a good decision to make that throw either. Speaking of that 4th and 2, I know, Alex, you had I don't know if you ended up going through with it, but you talked about how is there a little bit of disagreement between Mike and Alex here on that play? Now that it's over, where Alabama's in the playoff, just
which one are we talking about?
The 4th and 2.
I think. I mean, there's layers to it. I don't hate going for it in that position with 8 minutes left. You needed 2 touchdowns. You're thinking that even if Georgia gets any points, that's a 3-possession game with
and your defense is gassed.
5 or 6 minutes left. You're pretty much done. So I don't hate the call to go for it. I don't like the play call.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was trying to accomplish. It kind of speaks to your inability to have any sort of inside game. But if you are Kalen and you're the CEO of Alabama football, obviously in this hindsight, we can say it didn't matter, but do you have to be thinking about the scoring margin?
Yeah.
Like I know he didn't want to. I know it's not right to think that way as a head coach, but from a cold, hard, practical standpoint, do you have to be thinking about the scoring margin in that particular situation?
But my buddy brought up a good point with that, like how, I mean, he made his stance clear, and he talked about after the game too. They're trying to win an SEC championship. Like, he was fully under the impression going into that game they were in the playoffs. So he's kind of has that away. The score doesn't matter in his mind. But and we talked about after, like the score, it didn't matter. Alabama didn't move a spot, but like
in the moment, I couldn't believe
it was going to matter. Right. Go ahead.
In the moment, it felt even more inexplicable than going for it on 4th and 2 from Auburn's 6-yard line in the Iron Bowl and not just kicking the field goal. Because I was sitting there thinking 14 points, a 14-point margin, and you're in. And I thought it was pretty safe at that point. But as soon as I watched him explain it, I was completely turned around, because I don't think you, as a football coach, can think that way. I really don't. I think you got to play to win football games. And anything less than that, it translates into so many things you just don't want to be. And what you need to be as a football program is a team that tries to win games and not appease a committee and do all of these other things. Like, you're politicking at that point. Save the politicking for after the game. During the game, you play to win the game. And that's who you've been all season long. That's who you've been your whole career, is you go for it. And you've put your whole season in Ty Simpson's hand. Why not put it in 4th and 2? And I think to Mike's point, if you punt the ball, I'm not convinced. I think Georgia's at least getting 3 points. I don't think you're stopping them. Not that late in the game, not where they were, especially not. It's not points, it's time off the clock. So I think I like what it said about this program and the way Kalen DeBoer was going to lead with it, because it was acting out of assertiveness, not acting like you're on your heels and trying to save something. And because I just think that ultimately you might win in the short term doing that. I think in the long term, you don't.
Yeah. And to your point, like defense played well, but they were gashed. And you look at the time of possession, it was 36-23. I mean, it's a 13-minute difference. It's just it's a hard thing to ask for your
It's not like the
defense
punting
again.
game was doing particularly well either. Let's just
And that's we could bring that up. That hasn't been good for, and we've talked about it on Roll Pod a bunch. The punting game hasn't been good. Number one, they had a punt blocked, and then I think they had like a 37-yard punt, or maybe as right around in that range. It's just that's been off too. I mean, the 2 of the 3 phases of the Alabama football has been pretty off and just seemed weird for multiple weeks.
Yeah, it's there was a moment there where Blake Dowd was looking pretty good in the middle of the season, and that's faded. And granted, the block punt is not his. I don't think that's his fault. I think it's sailed wide. You got a guy in there who apparently didn't know what he was supposed to do, and it fell apart. But there was still some not great contact made on the football, and doesn't give you a lot of good feelings, especially knowing that was a difficult environment in Atlanta, but it wasn't a road game.
No,
I still think that
in the fourth quarter, I would argue maybe it was a little bit, but no, it's not. It's people. Like, I think Urban Meyer was up there saying Alabama played at Georgia. I know it was in Atlanta, but it was at Georgia. It's like we've been in there. It's pretty much equal boos and cheers, at least in the beginning of the game. Like it's always a good showing from each side.
Yeah. So, yeah, special teams is going to continue to be a thing to monitor, to say the least. I would feel pretty good about the defense overall. At the end of the day, as we've said multiple times now, it's about what can this offense do to get Ty going and be able to move the ball downfield. Because even when they're scoring now, man, it's painful. It's taken forever to get down the field. And
Georgia was, had pass interference. I think they had another penalty on that scoring drive, so they helped them out a bunch there. I don't want to harp on Ty, but I mean, we say it's, on him. So we're, the success of this team is going to, as far as he takes it, at least on our board, and some of my buddies who are lunatic Alabama fans, that in the best way, that's what makes college football better. Asking, hey, why don't you take Ty out? Do you think Ty's going to be taken out? I don't know what you guys were thinking in the game. I didn't think so. I think it's one of those things where if Ty's not having success, I don't know if an Austin Mack or Keelan Russell's going to have a success. Then you bring in a Keelan. And first of all, I think Mack goes in before Keelan, and that's just my personal take. But if you put in Keelan, and it's up for debate.
I don't know. I would not have been surprised either way. I'll just put it that way.
I just think from my perspective, like, it's your true freshman. Mm-hmm. If he gets in the game, he throws a pick or he has a turnover, then, does the fan base turn on him? I know you're not worried about the fan base, but it's just maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just didn't think Ty was going to come out of that game. I don't know if you guys felt differently.
We can debate about whether it would have been Mack or Russell, but I don't think Ty was going out of that game for anything. Right. That's your dude. And on top of that, as you said, Kalen was coaching with the full belief that he was going to be in a playoff game. To bench your starter in that point would have been bad, especially knowing all that went into the road to Ty becoming the starter. His whole story of perseverance and waiting and all of these things to then get benched in your what could be your final game. No, look, we can talk about whether he's injured or not. Something's off physically. I think we can sort of say that and understand that, there's a difference between an injury and just being hurt. But yeah, you keep him in that game, and you do the best you can. And I think that's why they ran the football as much as they could to try to take it off of his shoulders. But turning to another quarterback in that moment would have reeked of desperation and would have had the potential for bad implications.
Will Alabama have more than 7 carries from a running back against Oklahoma?
Yeah, 1,000%.
I mean, that was, and they got up to I think Daniel Hill had 2 carries for 8 yards on the first drive, and then you look up and they're, negative whatever it was. It's just,
I don't know.
It's kind of.
I'm not as willing to say yes to that.
7 carries
from running back.
You're saying from a single running back?
No, I was just saying. Daniel will have 4.
Now, a single running back is an interesting problem.
Right.
I could see that
because I could see a situation where you don't have a running back hit 7 carries, especially if you fall behind in the game. Because I think a big problem the running game in this game was game script,
Mhm.
where Ty just needed to start throwing as the game got worse and worse. So if that does happen, which it did happen last year at Oklahoma, like, I don't know if they'll run the ball much. And you may not be able to run against Oklahoma's defense. So
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
Again,
for nothing, but the return of Josh Cuevas, if he can get back, is pretty big. Because we talk about what can help Ty out. I think there's a ceiling on the running game, but I think having that safety blanket and a guy that he can trust, because I'm not saying he doesn't want to throw Caleb Edwards the football. He clearly is okay doing that, but I think there's a reason when pressure comes, he looks for Cuevas. I think getting him back would be pretty damn big.
Yeah, 100%. Well, like we said to start the show, college football playoff bracket is set. Alabama, number 9 seed, no movement after the, Alex said it, ass kicking in Atlanta from Georgia in the SEC championship. They get to play at Oklahoma on December 19th at 7 p.m. Central Time. That is 12 days away. A lot of injuries to keep track of, so we'll be back on Wednesday or Thursday, sometime this coming week. But I like to always kind of end the show in a similar light. What's keeping Kalen DeBoer up tonight in the next couple weeks? You can't say Ty Simpson.
He's looking at his phone. I took my phone out, but he's looking at his phone and saying, Jeff Allen, if you call me, I will shoot you into the sun. There are no new injuries. You only give me good news, and you give it to me in person.
Yep.
I think that's where they're at right now.
Yeah. Mike?
I think it's keeping him up is Brent Venables. Brent Venables has beaten him twice.
Yeah.
And until proven otherwise, Brent Venables has Kalen DeBoer's number. I mean, that's what the facts say so far. So you got to change that if you're Kalen DeBoer. So that's what stands between you and anything else is Brent Venables and his defense, which is pretty damn good. So
It's about as good as it gets when it comes from a game planning and coaching perspective on the defensive side of the ball. But a loaded show. Thank you guys for joining. And as always, it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and right here on Bama247. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.